Andy Burnham could be set to face his first major rift with his MPs. He's preparing to decide whether to allow Rosebank, in particular, oil and gas extraction to go ahead. The consultation on that came to a close today, and industry sources have told The Times they believe that Burnham will approve, jackdaw at least, the gas field, but might resist Rosebank because of expected opposition from his MPs. Well, in the last couple of minutes, Donald Trump has referenced this. He's been speaking about North Sea oil in the Oval Office.
I spoke to him. We had a good conversation, a couple of them. We had a good conversation. One of the things he is going to do, I think he's going to open up the North Sea. He opened up the North Sea. Now he's got an immigration problem and he has an energy problem. He would have solved one of his problems. That would be a big thing. That would make UK rich. If you open up the North Sea, it's one of the great finds anywhere in the world. And if they would open up the North Sea, UK would be rich again.
Interesting. OK, let's speak to Lord Hannan, who is Director General of the Institute for Economic Affairs. Lord Hannan, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. It's Hannan.
Oh, sorry, Hannan. I'm so sorry, Hannan.
Daniel Hannan.
Of course it is. And it's written on my screen wrong. And for some reason, I just read it like Anchorman. I just read it aloud. Lord Hannan, forgive me. It was a stupid thing for me to do. Listen, look, you're in favour of more drilling here. You've been very explicit about that. What is the sort of cut and thrust of your argument to Andy Burnham as he mulls this decision?
Well, if we are trying to bring forward a transition from fossil fuels to other alternative sources of energy, it makes sense to start by cutting out the dirtiest and most expensive fossil fuels, the revenue from which goes to the dodgiest dictatorships. So it makes no sense at all to start by cutting out fossil fuels which are extracted in a remarkably clean and green way comparative to others, and where the revenue would go to a democracy, i.e. us. I think this isn't a left or right-wing argument. It's an argument about whether we are being realistic. Everyone accepts that we're going to need some kind of oil and gas for decades to come. So do we get that from a clean and local source and boost our own revenues, or do we put money into the coffers of dodgy dictatorships at a higher environmental cost?
And just so on that specific point, then we'll sort of test some of these arguments because they are interesting, and they'll be the ones that are ticking over in Andy Burnham's mind right now, won't they? There is an argument that 90% of the revenues from this oil would end up on the international markets anyway, and that it would reduce our import dependency by about 1%. And there's a train of thought that that's just not worth the effort.
I mean, I just fail to see how you can call that an argument. That's like saying, well, you know, if we build more cars here, it won't affect the price of cars internationally, so don't build any cars. I mean, that's an argument against all economic activity. But I suppose the serious answer is that there will come a moment when what the state is paying out in rebates and subsidies to alternative and renewable fuels overtakes the amount which it is getting in from revenues and taxes from our own resources. And if we stop drilling in the North Sea, then that moment will come much earlier. And given that we now have the fourth largest national debt in the world, behind the much larger economies of the US, China and Japan, given that our debt has now passed £3 trillion, that is a serious consideration.
But I suppose the reason why I guess it's presented as an argument, though, is because we're looking for reasons to do it anyway, aren't we? Because there is a strong argument. This is the source of fossil fuels we need to be moving away from. Climate change is an issue. We have legal obligations around climate change, and the sort of argument for doing this anyway is that is its economic contribution, and the point that sort of critics are making is that economic contribution isn't valuable enough for us to make the fossil fuel contribution.
But all we're doing is making a gesture, right? If in having taken a different attitude towards energy and the extraction of fossil fuels, we had led a global movement away, then there would be an argument, then there would be a valid argument about, you know, the externalities and how much you're prepared to pay to make this happen. But plainly that isn't happening, right? The only thing that we are teaching the rest of the world is what not to do. And so I come back to, it is crazy to be leaving oil in the ground here, which could be cheaply and relatively cleanly extracted, and to get dirtier fuel that then has to be at further environmental costs shipped from long distances in order to supply our own market, thereby putting revenue in the pockets of dodgy mullahs and Russians and other dictatorships instead of our own our own exchequer.
Okay, and I suppose, again, Lord Hannan and Christie Smith say cleanly extracted, but ultimately you would have to burn this oil. This would be burnt, wouldn't it? And burning it would produce 200 million tonnes of CO2, more than 28 low-income countries combined. There's an argument that, economics aside, we are living through right now the argument for it. That's extreme weather.
Yeah, but nobody, as far as I'm aware, Daryl, nobody, neither the UN Climate Change Committee nor anyone else, is arguing that we could do without oil in the short or medium term, right? If you have these renewable facilities, you need backup. You need, indeed, precisely the same amount of backup for when they're not working as they're generating. You also have all sorts of other uses for petroleum products, from plastics to pharmaceuticals. So there is no world in which this is going to stop tomorrow. The only question is, where are we going to get it from? And to repeat, it is a crazy thing to be giving up on jobs, on revenue, and on strengthening our resilience and the security of the West in order to make an utterly pointless gesture in a world where no country is following us at all.
Okay, and that right there is the back and forth that's going on in Andy Burnham's head right now, isn't it? That's fascinating.
Well,
I
hope he will actually. I hope he'll look at the economics of this, right? Because what you were suggesting at the beginning, Daryl, is that he'll split the difference and do a sort of King Solomon and
that's possible.
Have
that's
the
what we're
gas
hearing,
from the one but not the old.
Yeah.
That would be the worst possible approach, to try and do it purely in terms of positioning and triangulation and sounding moderate. If he wants to be a successful Prime Minister, he needs to get serious about growth.
Yeah, okay. Lord Hannan, good to talk to you as ever. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Lord Hannan, who's the Director General of the Institute for Economic Affairs. Hello to somebody here says, unlocking oil and gas will also create jobs, which will pay taxes into the British government. In Aberdeen, they say that for one oil and gas job, there are 3 other jobs in the city, i.e. taxes, retail, hospitality, which generates even more income. Somebody else here says, if we're to open up the North Sea, then for heaven's sake, let's establish a UK sovereign wealth fund and not squander it away as we did in the 1980s. And David Horton says, I was on the fence regarding North Sea oil, but since Daniel Hannan says, so this is very rude. So Daniel Hannan's always wrong about everything, says David. If he says we should go for it, clearly we shouldn't. Okay, that's cruel.